Welcome into the Energy Tech Podcast. I am your co-host, Mike Flores. Our episode today, Scaling the Edge from 10 to 200,000 points, growing pains and wins at Waterbridge with my guests, Ryan Glover and Joey Philippi. Is that right, guys?
You got it. You nailed it.
With Waterbridge. Good to have you guys on the show. Thanks for joining us. It's great to have you. You know, one of the things that we're excited about is that OpSite Energy runs the control room here in connection with the Energy Tech Podcast. But having you guys here and hearing the challenges of another control room like Waterbridge is exciting because we get to share in a lot of the details. But today we're going to target a little bit about scaling the edge and edge devices, how we're working in the field, and how we're leveraging technology. But first, I want to introduce my guests. Ryan, good to have you on the show again. You know, glad to have you.
Thanks.
And, you know, real quick, give us your 30-second commercial about yourself, man, with Waterbridge.
Yeah, so Ryan Glover, and I've most of my career I've been in the upstream oil and gas space. So I've worked for a couple large upstream producers, really on the oil and gas side, artificial lift side, until joining in the control room.
Yeah, thanks to have you. And Mr. Philippi, how about you, man? Give us your... Now, you get the longer intro. This is going to be a little more technical deep dive. All right. So I want the folks on the podcast to really catch a glimpse of who you are and what you do at Waterbridge.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so, the world of oil and gas and getting into SCADA, my initial foray into all of this was actually my senior design project back at A&M. It was being sponsored by Apache Corp, Russell Treat, in fact. And basically part of that project was to essentially create a Lufkin SAM-esque type platform on top of the SCADA Pack 350. And so part of that was doing a lot of the embedded programming on the 350, utilizing a external Bluetooth module for bringing out the data there, and doing the calculations for the Dynacard within there, and then having a nice C# type user interface for actually being able to play it.
So this is downhole data you were collecting with that Dynacard?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so all of this was just, again, a simple... a very simple project that lended into getting into this into the world of SCADA.
Yeah.
So my first job out of university was coming in as a systems integrator over at Intersys, and with that going around and doing a lot of work at some gas facilities, gas storage facilities, and getting those up to snuff, utilizing a clear SCADA system.
Yeah.
And a few forays around there. I then moved on to Encana, where I was working on a SIGNET system. And fast forward through there, went on to Wood Group Engineering. And over there, got into the controls element, so a lot of the field PLC programming, both for onshore and offshore. And, that lended to a lot of good exposure to, the needs of and the disconnect that you typically see with the field versus the SCADA side.
Right.
You have a lot of folks that enter into the SCADA world but aren't really familiar with what's the going-ons of what's going on in the field and vice versa, and the interplay of tags and how those are very important, or the interplay of how the structure of those tags need to be.
Right.
So that was very illuminating. So after that, went into a rollover at Engineering, at which I was doing a lot of field commissioning, going up and down one of the pipelines for Enbridge, and then moved on to working at Noble Midstream, handling their SCADA platform. Clear SCADA is what they were running there. And then Charles Lame, my former boss over at Encana, called me up out of the blue one day. Hey, started my new gig over here at Waterbridge, and they really have a need for reducing their overall OpEx of their SCADA platform. And so I came in, he showed me what they had in terms of a third-party system, and it sounded like a very exciting opportunity to really kick this thing up from the ground up. So, we had this third-party system where they for better or worse, they were utilizing a platform of essentially throwing out a industrial PC, but putting Windows 10 on it and trying to operate your produced water wells, those facilities, on a box that is prone to screens of death and such. So we came in, it was almost a rip and replace type scenario where we installed a bunch of Allen Bradley PLCs, repurposed the computer that they were utilizing as a mechanism for our edge computing,
right?
And then deployed Ignition Edge onto all of these platforms. We went ahead and brought that into our enterprise side, Ignition on our enterprise. This was the first company that I ever worked for that actually went full hard-blown investment into all of our enterprise servers are going to be in the cloud level. And, that was certainly a learning experience navigating Azure for that.
So sounds like, you've been quite a few places. You've had your hands in what I'm hearing is Clear SCADA, Signet, Wonderware. We'll talk about them, in for a second here, because when I think of Ignition in terms of deployment, these are what I call those the trinity of paywall systems, right? There's others, but usually it's a Wonderware, Signet, Clear SCADA, which are all, interestingly enough, at least two of them are owned by Schneider Electric as a whole anyway. They're paywall systems. And so almost immediately, were you touching Ignition before you came to Waterbridge?
No. So I came onto Waterbridge. Charles gave me the heads up, hey, start looking into this platform called Ignition, which I was like, okay, what is that? Okay, let me do a deep dive into there.
Yeah.
And fortunately, that platform has a wonderful mechanism for your learning of the development of it. They have their inductive university, which is completely free. You just jump on, start taking your courses at your own speed, and it's not like these other platforms. Well, hey, yeah, you can train up on it, but that's a couple days worth of training. It's going to be X amount, and it's kind of creating that hurdle for actually understanding each one of these platforms and their nuances and what have you. So, the way that inductive has opened the gates, so to speak, for entry-level developers coming in, trying to make their lateral movements within their companies or change of careers or what have you, is outstanding.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, you just so you know, man, you're preaching to the choir. I can't help but always put a selfish plug for the guys at Ignition, not just from the control room front, where Ryan spends his time, but on your front, it's easier to, in my opinion, it's easier to push out the single pane of glass a lot quicker. The learning curve can be reduced by the inductives, the university, to get the free training. You can download it for free. We can connect, collect, store, and learn from that platform almost right away, which is what I like about it. And so let me ask you two questions. Number one is, what did you guys inherit going into Waterbridge? I mean, both of you. I mean, you inherited something on the control room side, and you inherited something on the architectural side.
Yeah, so they were kind of interplayed there. It was this third-party proprietary system, and part of the architecture of that around that was also in tandem with their in-house control room that they were utilizing. And so, when I came on board, that was fully these guys were we're monitoring it to an extent. And then when Ryan came on board a few months later, he had to inherit that and the interplay between developing out his control room and such.
So Ryan, was that a pain point in the beginning when you inherited the control room, or were you already running ignition in the control room?
So we had ignition, but it was really kind of scaling out to what we wanted to do,
Right.
and the future. We could kind of see that vision
Yeah,
where we
okay.
wanted to go.
So you had an early start of what ignition could be, right, is what I'm hearing. And then what you inherited was this proprietary piece that wasn't truly interconnected, right, based on some early edge deployments. Did you take what was already in the field and you said you repurposed it? Was that kind of, I always use the quick and easy for ignition edge licensing.
Yeah, and so again, they had the PC that they were utilizing in the field. It's industrial PC there, so very hardened to the elements itself. So good piece of equipment. But what we ended up doing is repurposing that piece of equipment to facilitate our not only our ignition edge deployment, but also our video management system. And that was the initial approach for utilizing those pieces of equipment. And again, the shift of controls migrated from the PC to the PLC that we're all kind of accustomed to seeing in a production facility.
Yeah. So this is what you guys inherited. Do you think that from both your perspectives, there had to be some sort of, I call it usually the spark. This is where you get these, where Waterbridge removes to replacing, and I don't know if you had like an older poll response platform that you were working with first, or was it you came into something that, they were already using things like MQTT or not. But you obviously as a group, you must have had like a spark, because otherwise you wouldn't be where you're at today, which we'll talk about later. But what was that? I mean, you know, as much as my wife accuses me of what I call SCADA porn. That's when you're always looking at everything about SCADA. Like, that's my thoughts. I might be working on something. Oh man, we can do that with ignition, or we could do this, or we could. So her term is, okay, that's more SCADA porn. You need to come off of that. But you obviously have an aha moment for yourself, right?
Absolutely. And you say SCADA porn. I feel the same way, although my wife refers it to as the perfect way to go to sleep for her. I start talking about it for 5 minutes, and I turn around, and she's gone.
Put me to sleep by talking about UDTs.
Exactly.
Tell me.
That's it. No, so I mean, really our aha moment, or our pain point that we really saw was the methodology for, again, polling out these various devices and these and controls for these facilities, and then also just again the platform itself for how it was actually controlling the facility. They were utilizing a legacy Modbus architecture where it was just essentially their enterprise system was pulling out via Modbus to these various stations every 15 minutes, 10 minutes, depending upon whatever their interval was. And obviously, great for legacy type scenarios, but it really does not play into where the industry is really heading in terms of the amount of granularity that you can have for your system. So, as we're all aware with Modbus, it's you're polling it out. It's a protocol from the 70s,
right?
And they've done some TLC over the years to really extend its life. And there's no getting away from it because there's still so many devices out there that utilize. But the platform itself, it has its nuances where you're not specifically geared towards polling specific devices for what they're actually used. So you could poll your run status of a pump every 5 minutes. You can increase that interval, but really without having that report by exception type scenario, you're doing a lot of miscellaneous polls that don't really bring anything of value to you.
Right.
While on the other spectrum, anything that you want high density information upon, those can you can try and augment it by again tweaking your polling intervals, but whenever you have a system anomaly that occurs, you're not going to know about it until the next poll interval, and then after that, even so, the intervals pertaining to that, you're not going to get a higher granularity of polls just
No,
because
you're
you
right.
see those.
Yeah, so whether you're talking about temperature, pressure, runtime, volume, whatever you're looking at, with the advent of things like MQTT that separate that from Modbus or just polling cycles in general, is that I can get down to my granular data and I can look for when I get that engineering unit change. Mm-hmm. Sometimes in temperature, it might be, let's say, 3%. Okay. So in polling, I might stay the same and I'm going to collect a bunch of records that I really don't give a crap about, but I'm really looking for that 3% change, and I can see that over time. Why? Because in MQTT, I can grab that report by exception change, and now I have a point that I can rely on for history, right? So that's a big plus.
Yep.
So that was your what you inherited. In terms of when I say an aha, I'm talking about like you saw this polling. What was that? What was your first test or early hurdle that you guys had at Waterbridge? I mean, you had one, right? Because no one just sets up Ignition and says, "Oh, it's look, we're up and running." I think you always have some early hurdles.
Absolutely, and I see Ignition as great as the platform is. It's a choose your own destiny type platform. It can be as good or as terrible as you lend to it, and it really depends on your architecture going into the platform itself. We were very fortunate enough to have Taiga come in. They had experience standing up the Ignition platform over at Pioneer, and they brought a lot of those lessons learned over to us. And it allowed us to really quickly and streamline the development for both our vision development and our perspective development. So we, right off the bat, knew that we needed to have both a control room element within vision and a field element within perspective.
Right.
And with bringing on any new system, you're always going to have that pushback of, well, why are we bringing on this new system, especially from a field operation standpoint. They finally got their system tuned in. They're able to monitor their system as such. Why do I need to change and learn this new system, and what benefits does it add for me? And, like you said, I mean, there's certainly some pain points at the very onset of it, especially if you're not capturing all the functionality or what have you that you would hope or see, or, was on the, the quote unquote vision board, if you will. But, the biggest hurdles that we really ran into was shoring up our PLC development, because again, we were very fortunate enough to really start from scratch with this.
Right.
But it's also, you're starting from scratch and ensuring that production is not impacted in any way. So you're putting in a templated form of your configuration to really work with all of our facilities across the board in a very condensed timeline. And you really want to make sure that configuration is as fine-tuned and perfect as possible, because that's what you're replicating across the system. And so I think there was some hurdles there for really narrowing that down and really getting it to a point where we can say, yes, this is the configuration that we can go now run and gun and cut over all these facilities within a couple months.
Ryan, how did that translate to the control room? I mean, early on, obviously, you've got this startup, you've got this system. It sounds like Joey and team, or maybe we were a one-man show at that time. I don't know. You tell me. But obviously,
It's a pretty one-man show.
Yeah, it was a one-man show. It sounds like at that beginning. You stand this up, and then you had some challenge in the control room. I mean, obviously, it's like, hey, we have a need for this. How did you guys kind of bridge that? Because you got a spark going. Obviously, you deployed Ignition. You saw the value of getting away from a paywall or proprietary system, and then you saw some early first testing. But how did you guys work that out early on? In other words, was it you said a vision board? So it sounds like there was a way where you guys were conduiting ideas.
Yeah, so a lot of ideas came from the controllers themselves, just through as they're working, doing their day-to-day job. It's like, I'd like this, I'd like that. And so, Joey sits right next door. And so we just say, hey, Joey, we need this button, we need this functionality. And just slowly over time, you've got this, really nice system now. But, at the start, it was like, well, we need this. And, we're a smaller operation at the time. So, we're kind of just, there's a lot of little enhancements here and there. And then a couple times a year, maybe we do kind of a bigger initiative. And then, but I would say it's, other places that I've worked that there's some red tape involved where it's, you put a ticket in with the SCADA people that you don't see that sit in a different building, and it takes 6 months, and it's, third on the priority list.
Yeah.
With us, I felt our development was very quick.
And I mean, part of that is, Ryan's curated a hell of a team. I feel like the SCADA system can only be as good as the users that are using it and giving you that continued feedback. And unless you have that team that actually has that idea or has seen what works, what doesn't work in the past, really coming in with, this is really the feature that really drives the most value. I don't think we could have gotten there. So, a lot of it is really thanks to Ryan and his team for really giving us that roadmap of what they wanted to see.
Yeah.
Open communication. We've got a shared files where we can submit, things that aren't working and things that we want, enhancement lists. We prioritize them. We meet every single week, even to this day. And so I think it's a really good methodology for improving a SCADA system. But yeah,
awesome.
a lot of credit to the controllers because it's user driven.
Well, let me give it a quick perspective here, Brian on the board. I don't know if we have that pulled up, but let's talk about Waterbridge for a second. Guys, tell us a little bit about its operation, just some key things about Waterbridge. Let's start with the perspective where you're at right now in terms of your size, right? Where you guys operate.
So primarily, so we're kind of in 3 core assets. Our main assets in the Delaware Basin,
Sure.
Our main operating area.
Yeah.
We do have assets in South Texas and the Eagle Ford, and then Southeast Oklahoma and the Arkoma.
Yeah, and you guys have how many? At least several thousand, a couple thousand miles of pipe, at least.
Yeah, over I want to say was it 2,800, 2,400 miles of pipe, 168 disposal sites. So that it's grown quite a bit since at least my tenure with the company.
Yeah. So from when it first started, in terms of its growth, what is that? I mean, it's probably 5x, 10x its size from when you first started.
Yeah, I mean, I believe they really started the Waterbridge side of the business back in, I believe it was 2017, which, there was a handful of disposal facilities. And just over the course of the 5.5 years I've been with the company, we've gone from, I think, 65-ish facilities in total to, I think it's over 200 facilities at the moment. But then, 500-ish miles of pipe to this 2,400 miles of pipe. And, I think that really lends to just the amount that the BD's team is able to drive.
Yeah.
But then customer relationships, just in general. I mean, when you have a customer that has obviously all these options in the Delaware and the Eagle Ford and such, and they're able to turn to Waterbridge. I hope that we're doing something right in that regard. But even from the operational expenditure standpoint, I mean, when you have the option of curating a bunch of trucks to come and haul your water loads away, or you have the option of having Waterbridge lay down some pipe to your location, and basically you just push into the system, and you have a fixed cost for your water over the next 15, 20 years of the life of the well. Then I think it really makes sense. Our field operations are very responsive to our customers' needs and requirements, and then from the top level down, it's just always stemmed into us that really trying to drive innovation to allow for more customer growth.
Yeah, so it sounds like Waterbridge, and just in terms of sizing, you guys have scaled up to almost 4 to 5 times your growth, right? You've scaled up. You had some early hurdles. You recognized the spark of using products like Ignition. Obviously, you've deployed edge devices in the field to do that. So, you got some first tests. You've grown up, but in between that, Joey, I think you've had, talk to me about a little bit about your architecture. I realize we're not going to do a quick display, so if you're listening, one of the things that you'll note is, Ignition does have its different scaled out architecture types. So, you had to meet a challenge. So tell me how you did that from, Ryan, you'll give us a snapshot and a little bit about the control room, but from the enterprise perspective, how did you do that with Ignition from the beginning to where it is today in terms of Ignition itself, edge deployment, field communication, and protocols?
Okay. Yeah. So as I mentioned before, we our enterprise servers all live in Azure.
Yeah.
And really, when we started, we had a couple of virtual machines that were basically tied for all of the various services that Ignition required. A VM that's meant for our cherry broker for MQTT traffic, our VM that was meant for Ignition as itself, a VM, and when I say Ignition itself, this is going to be incorporating the Vision client host for all of the Vision projects that were upon there.
Right.
In that gateway, the tag provider, the historian link, and all of that. And then we had another virtual machine that was really spun up for our perspective side.
Right.
And as we continue to evolve the system, our database, let's take that for example, we still utilize a SQL, Microsoft SQL server for our repo for metadata.
Right.
And that structure, but we have ventured into utilizing Postgres with timescale DB on top of that for our time series data. And what that's really allowed us to do is take a 10 terabyte set of data that we had and reduce that down to about 500 gigs.
Right.
It has incredible compression capabilities. And even for larger queries, the unpacking of that compressed data and publishing that up so that your trends load quicker is next to none that I've seen.
So you're able to kind of rehydrate the data while it's compressed and still rehydrate if I'm doing trends in the control room.
Exactly.
Or if I'm looking at data, if I want to query on the database for historical stuff or equipment type issues, right?
Exactly. And, part of that, the real driving point for that was that we did have a classical, all of our data being shoved into Microsoft SQL as well. And again, the cost for the exponential growth on that, especially utilizing Azure SQL Service, was unobtained, or we couldn't continue to obtain that
Right.
or maintain that rather. We also had our EAM service that Ignition offers, all hosted within that virtual machine as well, that primary virtual machine. We have since segmented that out, along with a couple of other projects for perspective into their own virtual machines, and just utilizing remote tag providers to accommodate those.
Okay.
And maybe in the near future we'll see about pulling out all of the Vision project off of that main gateway as well. But the Ignition EAM service for our vast amount of Ignition Edge deployments right now, I think we're clocking in around 370 Ignition Edge deployments, and trying to maintain that on a manual basis is it's not doable. So EAM helps us augment that by pushing out updates as need be, pushing out our UDT updates.
And if folks don't know, that EAM module acts as what I call the central agent for all your other agents that are deployed out there, which makes it a really great essential. I call it one of the IoT secrets of Ignition is that EAM module that allows updates to be pushed out across the field, using leveraging EAM. So that's a great tool, especially if you're just using a single deployment of Ignition and you're looking at a scaled out architecture. And again, I'm not trying not to put these unselfish plugs. It's just that I've seen it in action, and it's great when someone can see that I can take something as simple as EAM and I can push all those deployments out into the field with no real issue, right? And if something goes down, in order, and this, if I've got some downtime or I have something that goes down, I can bring that up in minutes, leveraging EAM. So I think that's a plus.
Yeah, and again, coming from your other classical SCADA platforms.
Paywalls. That's what they.
Oh my God.
Paywalls.
Man. Just trying to expand out, and you have a tag count of this. Okay, well let's ramp up your pay just a hair bit more there.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And send you a bill. Don't forget, because I've got tags. That's 10,000 more tags. That's another. $20,000 a year. Or whatever. Then I might be exaggerating the number, but it's still thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, and for growth. I mean, it's one of those that I do love that pay structure that Ignition has and Inductive Automation has, where you pay for the base platform, you pay for the modules that you are going to be utilizing for that base platform, and that's it.
The other thing is that when I price it, in case folks don't know, you can go to the Ignition website and price it yourself. And the real math is that once I have a deployment of Ignition, if I want, if I want to stand by, just do 50% of that number. That's really the math. That's how easy it is. Deploy here, and then half of that. If I'm looking at, I want to deploy right next to it.
Yeah,
so it's
absolutely.
For backup. I mean, that's really that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, and talking about the rest of our architecture here. I mean. Originally we had cellular deployments for all of these facilities.
Yeah.
Part of our higher cellular costs was due to all of the data traversing both from the enterprise down and the needless data coming back up, or the unutilized data that was waiting. So lent into Ignition Edge and being able to serve up all of this data via MQTT and utilizing the Sparkplug-B protocol, so that we could make use of the store and forward module or store and forward component on there, and also the unified namespace component, being able to set up your group, your edge, your group, your edge node, and your device node. And then being able to essentially parse out what facilities are what, and what payload data comes from what facility.
Ryan, how do you guys see that benefiting yourself in the control room? I mean, obviously with MQTT, you should see rapid trends, You probably don't ever see an hourglass again, when you're talking in terms of data. But what about adding facilities? I would imagine that if, the group is doing, if the field group has a deployment, the group in the control room really doesn't have a lag. You don't have a lag, but at the same time, it sounds like you guys don't have to. You can add a device and do some quick point-to-point tasks, and then add the next site or the next facility almost immediately.
Right. So, the way Joey and team have set it up, we can do those point checks right there on the, on the device and ignition. So it from our standpoint, it's very quick.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't want to downplay this, because this is important for people to know, is that if the team has deployed MQTT in the field, they're essentially created this UDT, this architecture that allows them to add device, facility, all the way down to, that UDT structure. So when they add that, it immediately is recognized as a node in the system. Then from that node in the system, the control room can begin its point-to-point almost immediately. Why? Because I have my initial birth certificate that comes out of there. And that's how it is that simple, right? And that's why I think, Ryan, you can come and say, yeah, Mike, it's that easy, because you can start you're going to have issues in point-to-point. You're going to want to check those things. But ultimately, you've reduced what normally takes, I got to have someone I've cut out that programming time. I've cut out time to make sure that it's configured, and I don't have to have an extra body in the middle to do that. And then I've shortened my time probably in the control room on a true point-to-point.
Yeah, when we see it in SCADA in ignition, like, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
It's not like, this piece of equipment's been out there for a week, waiting on SCADA to get this. No, it's immediate. So
yeah, and I think that lends obviously to the ease of MQTT, but I got to give a shout out to my SCADA manager, Chris Morris, who has really inherited the SCADA platform and really just truly done some amazing things with the development there, getting us really in line with how we can rapidly deploy and rapidly stand up not only facilities, but also all of our remote assets, our remote receipt meters.
Yeah.
Now whenever a measurement tech installs a remote meter, pretty much he just has to do a couple configurations in his mobile app, and it's already stood up. The device is already propagated upward into ignition, and really right now we're looking at about 2,000 receipt points, and growing almost weekly. By like every 2 to 5, and maybe more. Receipt points throughout there. So, it just lends into the ability to maintain a system that's exponentially growing while allowing his developers to continue to bring out cool features that Ryan and his team are bringing out.
Wow.
And requesting.
So, just to stick on the topic of ignition, because we're going to touch a little bit on your communication, field comms. That's another, I think, a big plus for you, and some of the things that you guys have been able to integrate. Tell me how you guys have, because of the new, let's say, architecture and the way the control room works, how have you guys been able to deliver mobility to people in the field?
Yeah. Again, Perspective being our agent for mobile access, essentially what that entails is that not only being able to check their sites, being able to submit work orders through ignition, that will automatically propagate all of the necessary fields. So really, they just have to add some context to it, and then that's it. Work order is generated, and they're not spending all their time, typing on a phone where you can barely see a screen out in the hot area out in West Texas, and the sun glaring at you. But then along with that, being able to quickly pull in trends of their particular facilities that they're going around and looking at, and really respond to any anomalies that Ryan and his team are catching.
Yeah, ease of use is a big thing. So if you make things overly complicated, field folks or controllers, the buy-in's not there. It's hard. It doesn't get used. It never gets improved upon. You know what I mean? So I think getting the ease of use, the functionality streamlined, really important, which I think they've done a good job with the perspective.
Wow. So you guys, you've managed to, you did your first testing. You've got this spark going. Now you've had to scale, right? Because, and I'll say it again, just because you're growing doesn't mean you're scaling in terms of an organization. It's easy to grow and still have the same hurdles that you've had and not, cleared them out or leverage technology for them. So one of the ways I think, Joe, you've mentioned you've done this is not just with Ignition and Edge and MQTT, your protocols, those things, but in true UNS fashion, you've also integrated or high-graded you guys' field communication. So
that's correct.
What are some of the things you're doing there?
Yeah, so really again, you talk about scale. I mean, what we were doing at the time with deploying cellular modems can only keep you floating for so long before the costs of every single byte starts really ticking at your overall OpEx. And so, our VP of Technical Field Services, Charles Lame, he was adamant about tower builds and bringing all of this into a private radio infrastructure. Yeah. And so, initially we had 11 towers that were built in the area, all with FCC licensed 11 gig or 6 gig, depending upon what we can get, backhauls. Yeah. And setting up 5 gigahertz APs at each one of these towers for last couple mile connectivity. And so essentially you take all of these cellular nodes that you had and reduce that tremendously. Obviously there's still going to be pockets of coverage that you can't quite hit. But you take all of that and you condense it where you have a couple of fiber egress points. And suddenly not only you're not worried about the meter data anymore, but it also opens up avenues of being able to really physically watch any of these facilities through our camera feeds. And so we have anywhere from 4 to 6 camera feeds per location. And those have been detrimental, those have been incremental. Sorry, not incremental for us and Ryan's team and operations, really to catch issues very early on. And we'll go back to it in just a bit in terms of scalability for our camera feeds. Yeah. But being able to have these towers that are now expanding and allowing us the freedom and to really propagate our traffic business is key. And so since we've built several as we've expanded and we've augmented the reliability of those by adding egress points of, say, Starlink here or another fiber node with a different provider over here. But it's kind of lent into the ability to start playing around with other technologies like CBRS, like Lorowan, right, and actually leverage those capabilities to again continue to augment our overall operations. Wow.
So what I'm hearing then is you've got not only these egress points, but again, when you fall back on MQTT and packet sizing, you've been able to cut that out. You've made changes to your overall network that gives you the capability to pull and get more granular with the data that's already being offered up. Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
Exactly.
And then it sounds like on the Lorowan side, what you've managed to do is do the same thing and convert that and bring in data, and then I'm interested to know, hey, I've got a Lorowan device. I hit the LNS, and then I would imagine at some point you're doing an MQTT conversion there.
That's correct. Yeah, so we utilize ChirpStack. It's an open source platform,
Sure.
and so that serves as our application server for LoRa. So essentially, we have roughly in the ballpark of about 60 LoRa gateways peppered out. Certainly, our initiative is to continue to build those out and
Right.
and provide more gateways to maximize density and coverage. But by building out that network, we can now start to leverage these very low-cost LoRaWAN devices that have a battery life of anywhere from 6 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Deployment is very quick and easy. We have, and shameless plug here, but we have a WICA pressure transmitter, all-encompassing, has the pressure element in it, the LoRaWAN element, the antenna, all encompassed in this little salt shaker device, half-inch MPT. So really all a I&E tech needs to do is go over, put some Teflon tape on, screw it in, and call it a day.
Yeah.
They have the mechanism for configuring those out at the site through a mobile app. And then all this data starts propagating over to us. And then it really just helps us holistically for our pipeline be able to start understanding the pressure drops and curves based off of terrain, based off of this discrepancy point coming into the system and what have you. And really starting to, the long-term gain there is to be able to really visualize, think Google Maps, your traffic reports there, you got your red, green, what have you. Really on real time, be able to showcase that for Ryan's team and be able to really see where our pressures are really starting to rise and causing issues with our customers getting into our system.
Yeah, so one of the things, the way I liken LoRaWAN or LoRa products is as simple as setting up Wi-Fi in your home. I mean, it's almost that simple, really. Yeah. I don't have to worry about wiring up, figuring out, oh, this is my 4 to 20 milliamp signal, hooking up, wiring up, getting back, setting up a device, setting up the radio, talking. It's as simple as I install the device, hit that LNS, and then use my app to basically configure right there typically on the spot almost. Yep. And then it integrates, and then I'm sure, you've got a nice way for it to integrate, see the device, and then add it into Ignition.
Exactly. Easy. So, from the LoRa perspective, we make that available for our field techs to be able to see, hey, is this device actually talking here, right, or is this a location where we need to augment that? And we have a couple of LoRa testers out there to basically right off the bat be able to see, okay, how many gateways are in the region, how far away they are, and yeah, just as you said, I mean, essentially adding in the device EUI, adding in the app key, and really that's it. It's going to start propagating its respective payload up through the LoRa gateway and up to our ChirpStack server. And then from ChirpStack, we have it has a MQTT element to it through a Mosquito client.
Yep.
And that publishes up to our Chariot broker, and that's how we then ingest that within Ignition. And then we have some elements in there for the auto build-outs within Ignition to take that payload and actually make it visible for Ryan and his team. Wow,
that's exciting. And then I would imagine, Ryan, on your side, that makes it easy, again, going back to something as simple as if I've got to add something into the system, if I said, hey, this may be something that needs to be replaced, or here's a brownfield opportunity to add a sensor, that sounds like something that the control room can push out or say, hey, I see it, now I can do the same thing. I'm doing a quick point-to-point.
Yeah, and with all the stuff, especially with the LoRa and the communications too, that want to kind of reiterate, it's like you go to the grocery store, and we've been driving the Chevy, which gets the job done, right? But, if you ask any controller, they want the Ferrari. Right? They want the Ferrari with the huge trunk space. So, I get my groceries and get there fast. And so, they have kind of high demands, and all these pieces, reliable, the communications network, being able to, deploy LoRa and PTs on places we really probably couldn't have done that at scale now.
Yes.
And so we can get higher frequency data, so it's like, now we just need to learn how to drive the Ferrari. We've got it now. Now we need to know what to do with it, and that next step. No, the control room really, if you ask them, they want the best all the time. I want the highest frequency data. I want live data all the time, and communications 100% all the time, because garbage in, garbage out. But so a lot of the stuff that Joey and his team have done has been, I think wildly successful.
So it sounds like, Joey, you're creating this expectation where, you're sounding like an edge company, man. And here's what I mean by that. If I look at the places like an Amazon or a Tesla, or believe it or not, Chick-fil-A is an Industry 4.0 company, okay? So when you look at them, what's happening is that they're responding to their customer, okay? As much as, the world likes or dislikes Jeff Bezos, at the end of the day, everybody's got a Prime account, right? But why? Because we like it. Because we know that whatever happens in the application, I'm not looking at a spreadsheet to see where my order is. I'm looking at a mobile application that gives me visibility right away in real time. And that's the same expectation I'm hearing in your control room.
Yeah.
Is that there should be an expectation of real-time information that either saves money or time, right? You're doing one of the two things, and it sounds like you're building that over there at Waterbridge.
Yeah, you talk about Bezos. We're all old enough to remember times whenever packages took 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get to us, and now I don't even know why I wanted same day, but I want it same day.
You do.
It's these expectations that keep on growing, and I got to feel that. That's certainly the case. You keep on pushing you try to push the boundary further, and then it's like, okay, well, what's next type deal. And
I'm glad you said that, because I mentioned this to Ryan. If you catch the episode, hopefully before this one, who knows in what order, but, Ryan and I talked, what I explained is that, whether it's SCADA and it's technical and we're doing a deep dive here, or it's something as simple as Amazon, people are buying a feeling. Your control room has a feeling. Your guys in the field, the automation techs or whoever, have a feeling. And it sounds like you want to deliver the same feeling, that we're going to get this in, we're going to cut out some red tape, we're going to get this integrated, we're going to get it deployed. So knowing that, and you have that expectation, what does the future hold for Waterbridge? Something that you can talk about that you guys are doing looking ahead.
Yeah, I think the biggest element, and again, if you listen to the previous podcast with Ryan, he touched on it before, but, again, getting back to the scalability aspect, we have the 4 to 6 cameras per location, but, as this continues to grow, and, I think currently we're sitting at something like 830 video streams at the moment.
Yeah.
It's not something that a human can realistically look through,
right,
while doing their day-to-day job, while doing the controls, while checking their alarms, while responding to field calls. So attempting to utilize video analytics to, say, catch leaks, or if you have some physical intrusion or something to that extent, being able to grab that, there's certainly opportunities to start implementing and utilizing large language models to again help diagnose some of the issues that some of these guys may be seeing, so that this alarm set, this alarm set, this alarm set. Please tell me, the top 3 reasons why this may be an issue, or what may be causing this type deal. Just something to augment them. Utilizing AI agents to essentially facilitate some of these things to start really setting up a top 10 list of these are my facilities that I have the most that you may want to look at. These we have some pressures climbing. They're not quite at alarms yet, but you may want to look at them because we have some issues there. Or this pump kicked off, and we have a lower flow rate. Our tank levels are rising a bit more, so you may want to look at this. So those are kind of the things that really want to look at.
So a look ahead here, what I'm hearing is anomaly detection at scale in the organization,
Yes.
right? Anomaly detection both in volumes, both in what I'm seeing on camera or what I might be seeing in a pipeline, a facility, right? What I'm hearing is from you is at scale, recommendation systems.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Where we're recommending, augmenting, and prescribing things to your operators and to the field and to your overall operation.
Absolutely.
Most control rooms are pretty good at reactive.
Yes.
And at small scale, they could be okay at, being proactive and preventative. But at large scale, that's tough.
Yeah. No, you're right. At large scale, control rooms can't predict anything. So
It's hard.
You can't. And there's things. It sounds to me also like you've got a tall order, Joey. You've created this expectation, and it sounds like what I'm hearing from you. You've got a really good headspace for recognizing when you can deploy an AI agent to augment an operator or augment operations in order to give you a competitive advantage that the naked eye cannot catch.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, I think that's what you're saying here is that's what Waterbridge is wanting to do. And I will say that that's a rare commodity for any control room. OpSite energy, we're at the ground level of what we're doing at the same pace. We've got lots of great initiatives here. We see a lot of synergy in terms of the same things that challenges that you guys have that we're seeing. And one of our biggest things is to capture the mindset that we've got to be able to leverage technologies to solve a lot of these problems. Mm-hmm. So, I did this with Ryan on the last show, and I want to ask you, Joey, now that you've stepped back and you're scaling up, what would you tell someone like yourself that might be a listener on the podcast, the 3 things that you think they need to do? It could be a tip or trick or something that you say, hey, if I have to step back and look, these are maybe it's 3 things that I want to target if I expect to go to scale.
Yeah, and I think we'll go with the biggest one I always say is you have to know what your end goal is, and being able to build upon that foundation. So, we've talked about ignition a lot on this platform. Again, I see it as a choose your own destiny. It can be as good or as bad as you put into it, and the foundational aspects for being able to templatize and replicate and utilize the elements within it, so that when you are growing out the scale, it does not become this cumbersome behemoth of a system that is unmanageable. And I think you really have to have that foresight for being able to actually build it out in a way that can be managed by hopefully a smaller team. That way that you can be a little bit more agile and dynamic and bring in contract or outsource priorities as need be in the future.
Yeah.
I think number 2 is you really with this evolving world of again, we talked about AI on here. If from both a asset and a cumbrance, you can think of AI, and depending upon how you actually approach it, it can be a very viable tool. But it could spin into this, hey, we're going to do this AI thing, and 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, you haven't really gone anywhere. Again, because you haven't gone back to your build out, and you haven't, utilized some mechanisms like a unified namespace,
right,
for actually being able to comb through your data. And so, We've heard this term before, a data swamp, trying to curate that into a data lake that you can actually utilize that information. It's huge, but also from a detrimental point, not even if you're trying to make it as an asset, the external people that are utilizing these tools to really intrude upon as a cyber potential failing there. I think there's a lot to really understand. Again, we could have an entire conversation consisting of cybersecurity and the use of older architectures for, say, like the Purdue model and such,
right.
And how that actually relates to the world as it sits now. But being able to understand the needs of the field to be able to access your environment, but being able to put up those walls for third parties where they can't access that. And I guess number 3 is if you truly want to be able to be scalable, you have to start looking internally for development. You can't always look for on the shelf product.
Yeah.
They work for a while, but if you cannot, because you're going to hit a paywall, depending upon whatever you end up going about. And so if you get to a point where it becomes unfeasible for this product, then you're left in a bind, because then I can either pay the exorbitant fee, or I got to go look for another product and then repurpose my system to fit around that puzzle piece of a product.
Right. Yeah. And you said something that was interesting that I caught, is that especially with your AI portion, is that without people, I think I heard this morning, is that it doesn't evolve, but without people, AI devolves.
Yeah.
So it requires that, and I think you're saying the same thing about leveraging tools and equipment, right? Mm-hmm. Is that, hey, they evolved, but you're going to hit a paywall, and they're going to devolve back to, I'm spending a lot of money.
Exactly.
Right. So with that, I want to close out this episode, guys. It was great to have you. Trust me, I could keep you here another hour or two. That would be the best thing ever. We can keep going. But if you are listening in, remember, you can like us, you can subscribe to us. And it was great having Ryan and Joey on the show from Waterbridge. Good to have you guys. I am your co-host, Mike Flores, with the Energy Tech Podcast, live here in Cannonsburg from the OpSite Energy Control Room. Saying thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe.